who's next? Because the Steelers have a lot more moves to spend, or a lot more moves to make. They have $17.9 million to spend right now. They could still create, I want to say, almost $35 million with TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Minkah Fitzpatrick restructures and possible releases, and then extending Cam Hayward. I want to say it's 35 mil, maybe a little bit more. Their final product, they were at like $25 million as of yesterday, and they could have got upwards to $50 to $60 million. Now they're at 17, so I want to say they're at like $40 million. They could get themselves to before it's all said and done. Who's the next signing? And do you see a splash at wide receiver? I feel like that's the big one. Is a big wide receiver coming to Pittsburgh?
It depends on how you define splash, and it depends on how you define big. Because Tyler Boyd's pretty big, relatively speaking. He's 6'3". But yeah, no, I don't think he's big in the way that you might have thought. But I think they go veteran as far as free agent signings for a wide receiver. I like Boyd just as a, I don't know if you, I think they're gonna go. I think the best bet is to go Boyd in free agency to fill a slot need for receiver, and then you draft another outside guy. And I think you kind of aim high with that guy you're drafting. I think they need kind of a veteran presence in the wide receiver room. I'm not sure I'm super comfortable going into a year with, the leaders of the room being George Pickens and Calvin Austin. Like those guys, but I think we need a little bit of a steadier hand in there, a little bit of a veteran presence. So yes, I think they've got to get at least one veteran wide receiver. I think Boyd would be a near perfect fit. Not going to be crazy expensive. That would be the move I'd go first. I could also see, another former Bengal that you mentioned. I think DJ Reader would be a really big target, and I feel like a really nice addition to that defensive line room.
Yes.
So I think those are the two guys that I think I'm keeping my eye on the most moving forward. Obviously there are those safeties, but I don't know. For some reason, I think those are going to drag out a little bit. Like I think those are going to take some time. We had an initial rush, and I think they're going to move a little bit more slowly with those safeties.
So I agree with you on that. I know I said Justin Simmons. I think it's like a 24 to 48 hour mark for the safeties. It's not right.
Which counts as slow. I think that counts as slow at this
100% for the way that the NFL. It was 12-0. We said it yesterday, or we said it Monday. We recorded the podcast Monday morning, talked about Russ. We got off the podcast. We were gearing up, planning for the day, and I was like, all right, 12:03, shit's gonna start popping off. And at 12:01, shit started popping off. And it said like. To go to Thursday that's slow as humanly possible. So I would say 24 to 48 hours. I expect a safety. When I say next, I agree. I think DJ Readers is definitely a name to watch. I think he makes a ton of sense. He's just starting to take some visits. I could see one of those visits being Pittsburgh. I could see that working out so well for them. It just makes way too much sense. They got to start creating money if that's the case, but I think it makes so much sense. I'm going to toss out a wide receiver that just hit the open market last night, maybe early this morning. I don't know. I woke up to the news. Hunter Renfrow, former Raider, didn't play much the last season, 2 seasons. I was told a year ago, before the season, I want to say, maybe at the trade deadline, might have been both, that the Steelers had interest in Hunter Renfrow, that they had conversations about acquiring Hunter Renfrow, but that his price tag was just a little bit too high. He was making like $13 million, $14 million a season. They were already paying Deontay. They just didn't see it being worth that. That is a great slot guy. He's a year younger than Tyler Boyd, and I think Tyler Boyd's the perfect fit. Like, I love Tyler Boyd. I think that signing makes a ton of sense. It would excite the Steelers fans. I think him and Mike Tomlin have a connection. I think that makes a ton of sense. Renfro's a year younger. I think at one point, maybe had a higher ceiling that fell off a cliff. I don't know what happened there. If the Steelers could get him like cheap, like $3-4 million, I think that's definitely an option for them. And he's a veteran and he could start. You don't have to worry about him. I know people are going to say like, oh, they just did that with Allen Robinson. I think Hunter Renfrow is a lot better than Allen Robinson was when he came to Pittsburgh. That would be a name that I watch. Obviously, everybody wants to talk about, the Calvin Ridleys. If Calvin Ridley did not sign yet, I believe.
He did not. I don't believe he did.
Calvin Ridleys, I think that's, you could put it on the radar and say possibly, depending on, how much Steelers are willing to spend. But I think you're right with the slot guy. Renfrow and Boyd would be the names that I watch, and then you go into the NFL draft and you're feeling good about it. I could also see them, that would be 4 if they go that direction. I could see them signing like a smaller name as well. Like, I'm going to toss this out there. Maybe a return from Ray McLeod. He tweeted out, I caught a tweet of his yesterday, 2 days ago, where it was him sending the black and yellow hearts to Russell Wilson signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know what that means, but he's a good return guy. He can match up well with Calvin Austin and allow them to kind of do a lot of the same things. I think and Ray was good when he wasn't great, but he was called upon a lot of times in a lot of big moments, and he came through. So I wouldn't rule that one out. I think that's the way to go. And then it goes safety. And I think that's how they top it off. Like, they just go safety, maybe a Brian Allen. I'm going to keep tossing that name out there. But I would say that's the order the Pittsburgh Steelers go. Do you expect what position do you expect to sign next?
That's a good question. I think they go receiver next, to be quite honest. Yeah. I feel like that's a position where you need to shore that up right now. And I don't know. That's just I think that's your biggest hole right now. I feel like safety, you have, I don't know, like I said, safety's going to drag out a little bit. And the rest of those positions, you have options in the draft too. So I don't think you feel a huge sense of urgency there. Like, you've got to, as far as, some inside linebacker depth, a center, a tackle, things like that. Like, I mean, they're probably not going to sign a free agent tackle, but like those things, like, if we don't get a guy in free agency, like, we'll draft someone. Like, that doesn't really concern me at all. But I feel like safety and slot receiver are 2 places where either the draft options aren't great, or you need, in the case of safety, or in the case of receiver, you need like an older guy, or you need I don't know, you need a steadier presence there. And I feel like your slot options, you need to kind of address that now. And then you can address, an outside guy later. But I think receiver, if I was Omar Khan, would be my first priority right now. That would be where I would say, look, we need to shore this up right now. I want to feel good about this before we have to go address these other positions.
I agree. I think that's the way to go. You don't make a trade like Deontay Johnson and then wait around and say, well, we got time. That's
the other thing. I think they might have a plan in place. Like, I don't think Deontay, like this Deontay thing, it kind of, if you're reading between the lines, it seems like it was in the works for a little bit now. So I don't think this was a spur of the moment thing. So I have to assume that they have a plan of some kind.
Yes, I agree. I think that they knew what they were doing. They don't make these. Omar Khan does it. Omar Khan has been promising. Like, this dude, when this is all said and done, we're going to sit down. We're going to have a full podcast about how great Omar Khan is, because this dude's killing it. And I think he thinks very meticulously, and he's always a step ahead. And I just don't, like you said, like, this seemed planned. And Art Rooney's not sitting around saying, yep, send our number 1 receiver to Carolina. We'll figure out the rest later. He wants a detailed plan of how you're going to replace him, and I'm sure Omar Khan's got it. So I would expect that move to happen probably today, and then the rest of it comes afterwards with a couple of names out there to be watched for.